Hey everybody, it's me, Remy, the comic book poser, and I'm here today to welcome you to another Poserverse. Finally did it. I have created my list of 15-ish comics that are my grails, my must-have books that I want to try and pick up this year at a reasonable price. And to find out what books I'm hunting for in 2021, you'll have to find out after this. So I've divided my list into 4 categories. Number 1 is Spider-Woman stuff. Number 2 is X-Men stuff. Number 3 is Adam Warlock stuff. And then number 4 are other books that I'm interested in and wanted to have 4 nice and neat categories. So the first category is Spider-Woman, and Spider-Woman and Jessica Drew is a hero that I've gotten really interested into. That I hadn't read a lot of Spider-Woman until the most recent run, and I know I've gone back and forth with people on why I think it's good or not. But then I started doing some, back digging. I started reading some of the older books on Marvel Unlimited, and just kind of started getting into her as a character. I watched the abomination of the Spider-Woman TV show where she saves the day and then everything is like mansplained to her at the end, and it's like, oh, silly Jessica doesn't know how to solve her problems. But I like that the character in the comics has kind of endured beyond that. I like looking at kind of the role that she has now conflicted in trying to balance things between being a mother and being the superhero that she's always been. So there are 2 books that I want to try and get, and realistically I think I may only be able to afford one of the 2. But you never know what you find out in the wild. So the first book is Marvel Spotlight number 32. It's the first appearance of Spider-Woman. Right, if this is a character I'm starting to like, then clearly I want her first app. And then the second is Spider-Woman number 1 from 1978-79. The first, solo series, book number 1. And I've seen prices for that more affordable, getting a decent copy in the $30 to $70 range. So I can get behind that. The second category are X-Men books. And some of these are books that I want because I like the X-Men, that's what brought me into comics when I was younger. That's what brought me back to comics with the reset of the X-Men universe with House and Powers. So I've got 7 either individual or clusters of books that are on here. The first one, I feel like I have to have a New Mutants 98, I have to have the first Deadpool. That is one of the ones that I think might get more out of reach because the prices on those have been going up as more people have been kind of specking on what will happen to the value of those books as Deadpool finally gets integrated into the broader MCU. And I think that's going to hurt my ability to find something relatively cheap, that I'm going to have to luck into finding a New Mutants 98, with it being one of those instances where it's hidden in a back issue and somebody truly doesn't know what they have. The problem is most of the shop owners around me are pretty good at knowing the value of their books. They don't super overcharge things, but as the market will fluctuate, they'll do what's best for them for business, and I'm not going to fault any of them for that. So that might make it a little pricey. Book number 2, I've made it, known that I'm a huge fan of Namor, that I get excited at any appearance that he has in anything ongoing, That's why I've enjoyed the King in Black tie-ins. That's why I like the little appearances that he makes in the, Dawn of X run of X-Men titles. And that's one of the reasons why somebody talked me into picking up the 3 most recent Avengers books, They're like, Namor makes an appearance, And I was like, no, but now I'm gonna get him. So the X-Men book that I want is the original X-Men number 6, because that's where it's revealed for the first time that Namor is a mutant. I've seen this book cheaper than Submariner #1, and there are 2 first appearances of Namor. One of them is impossible to find because it was in like an old movie preview handout comic, and the number of those that people have found that exist are in the mid double digits, and I've seen that one sell for over $1 million, so unless I win the lottery, I'm not getting that. But I think X-Men 6 tying Namor to the New Mutant, or Namor to the mutant world, is something that's intriguing to me. Next up is X-Men 114. This is where, for the first time, you see Uncanny used on a cover, and it's not for a few issues beyond that until you see the Uncanny X-Men become the title run for a while. So I think having the first Uncanny would be cool. I think I have the book or 2 before that, the Merry Christmas X-Men book. So that's something that I would like to pick up. The next is X-Men 129. It is the first Kitty Pryde, and it's the first appearance of the Hellfire Club, which are a person and an organization that I like seeing the way that they've all played out in comics. The next 3, Uncanny X-Men 141 and 142. I feel like I need to own Days of Future Past. I don't have either of those. I've seen them go up in auctions, but they've been on times where I haven't had the money to get those books at the price that they are worth. Next is Uncanny 213 and 221. Those are the first appearance, or first cameo and first full Mr. Sinister. Sinister is probably my favorite villain that you see in the X-Men universe. I really love the way that he's being written now in, the current X-Men world, because you see that he's trying to figure out how to play within the rules of all things mutant, kind of going well together, but then clearly he knows that he's only looking out for #1. And then the last one is 266, the first Gambit. I gotta have the first appearance of a dude named Remy. That just feels on brand for me. The next category that I'll talk about is Warlock stuff. I'm a huge Adam Warlock fan. You can see 2 Warlock slabs that are like mid-run books. One of them is a minor key. In fact, the first appearance in one of those books is of Pip the Troll. This one is kind of hard to settle into kind of the same books that I want to get from Spider-Woman, but the equivalent of them for Warlock, because there's a debate over where his exact first appearance is. So Warlock first debuts in Marvel Comics as him across Fantastic Four 66 and 67, but also in a similar time in Thor 163 to 166, and you've got people who will talk about clusters of one or both of those sets of books as the true first appearance of him. So I think after doing some research, and here's where maybe some of you in the comments can help me kind of weed through this and figure it out, but that's something that I definitely want to have, is the first appearance of another one of my favorite characters. The second thing I know I want to hunt down is Marvel Premiere #1. That is the first appearance of Adam Warlock as Adam Warlock, and then Warlock #1, right? The first issue of the first solo series. Then on my list of random stuff, it's like either single books from a character, a single book, from an arc that seems pretty cool to me. The first one is Green Lantern 85. That's the controversial issue where Speedy is outed as a drug addict, and there's this big dialogue of how to handle it, and that was, quite controversial at the time. And I know that that's one of those books that's kind of hot because people are into that controversy. The second one is Booster Gold #1, the OG #1. That's literally the last book I need to complete my Booster Gold collection. It's the first appearance of Booster Gold and Skeets. And I like Booster Gold because he's like the Charlie Brown of the, DC comic side, where he wants to save the day, he wants to do good things, but a lot of the time Lucy pulls the football from him and Skeets has to help him come correct at the end of the day. I just think he's an interesting character, that he's the time traveler with his shit the least in order that we've ever seen. Ideally, I want to find a graded copy and a raw copy, or pick up, 2 raw copies and send one of them to get graded, just to have preserved. And then the last 2 are my only indies on the list for this year, that I'm kind of defining more and more what kind of indies I want to get into and what series are things that really have meant something to me. And the one thing that these 2 books have in common is Brian K. Vaughan. I want to find a Saga #1 at a super affordable rate, which I know putting those 2 phrases together does not go well, because the only one that I have is an Image Firsts, and it's beat to hell, but it's still a Saga #1. So I want to find any printing that's not the Image Firsts dollar reprint. And then the other one is Paper Girls #1, that I just started reading that series. I think it's phenomenal. I think I still might be able to find one for relatively cheap before all of the spec of the TV show kind of heats all the way up. But that's where I'm at. Let me know if you have any suggestions on how to hunt for some of these. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's a better book that helps meet some of the goals that I listed in terms of picking them up, and I'll take any suggestions or help that I can get. So as always, thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.